Good morning. Let's call the meeting to order at 9 a.m. And I just want to say, Doug, thank you for bringing us the sunshine.
Yeah, it's vicarious, but try to enjoy it.
Exactly. We will do that. Don't worry.
Where are you? Where's Waldo?
Well, Palm Springs, which is a nice day today, but I tell you, the drive down here, you've probably seen the news on the California storms and flooding. It's not overstated. It was a brutal trip down here. This is the first day where it just hasn't been awful. Apparently one more day of rain, and then it's kind of back to paradise.
Good. Okay.
All right.
Great.
Let's call the approval of the minutes for Tuesday, December 20th of 2022. Do I have a motion?
You do. I'll give you a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Motion has been passed and then passed. Public comment. Do we have any public comment today? Anybody on Zoom or?
It's just us on Zoom.
Okay. All right. No public comment. So let's move to nominations for officers for election for 2023. Do
So
I have any nominations?
I have a motion I would like to make for 2023, which would be, my motion would be for continuation of the same regime, which would be Janae Pierce-Musin as chair and Stephen Waite as vice chair for the 2023 calendar year.
Okay.
Motion has been made. Do I have a second?
You do have a second from me.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, guys. We will try to do you proud, right, Steve?
Yep.
All right, so we go to utility relief requests. And as you guys can see, this request has been done last year. I do have a question on this one. My question would be, is it the same pipe, the same place the leak was on this side? So that would be my only question in order to make an informed decision.
Committee knows, Steve sent an email to Tessa this morning asking about the timing on that, it being a second request from the same party within the timeframe that you guys had made the change in the ordinance. So I think the whole committee needs to talk about that. Steve can tee up his questions so all of you guys can hear it. That's really the committee's decision,
Okay.
Okay,
as you made.
great. Steve?
Sure. What I was wondering is if it was retroactive or whether it was from the time that we voted on it. So is that rolling 36-month period, does that roll backwards from the date that we enacted that clause? Or does it go forward from there and then we start with that 36-month period? That would be my question.
That's a good question. Yes, that's a very good question. So that's what we need to decide, I guess, as a committee, whether it's from the moment any people that have had relief requests last year, are we doing it now saying, okay, you've already had one last year, let's not do it.
My take would be that we should grandfather that because if it's retro back forward, then they didn't really realize that and know it. So going forward, the clause is in effect, but wouldn't affect anybody behind us.
Right, 2022.
2022. That would be
Well,
my interpretation.
when did the resolution pass?
So technically, and traditionally, when the committees and or council has made a ordinance change, it's that point forward. Okay, I have not known of any, and I can go into the archives and look to see if they've ever done anything that was retroactive. So, that would be something the committee would want to talk about. And if you want to do that, then we can make a decision based on that. But usually this is the way it's been. If, say, for instance, I was asking for a leak relief, I had already submitted it to staff for consideration to take to the committee. And it was before that resolution or ordinance was changed. It was in the works of that. And that resolution was changed before a decision was made. then I think this committee would have something to talk about depending on how close those events were. But I think we have a significant amount of months in between
Yes.
when that decision was made by you guys and council and when this actually came into staff.
Right.
So I think that may be what you guys want to talk about is when your change was effective and when this actually came in for consideration.
This is Doug. I want to make sure maybe I'm not caught up to the whole thing. I did read it. So we approved a request in February of 22, right?
Tess, double check us on the timing.
Yes, that's true.
So is the issue, what is the issue? We approved something in February of 2022, and now they've come back with, is this a brand new incident?
It is.
Yes.
Okay, so the issue is, since we approved something approximately a year ago, can we approve something that they come back again with a new incident within a year? Is that the issue?
Steve, you want to answer that since you posed the question?
Yeah, Doug, that's correct. I would just say that the reason that we're asking the question about this one is it's within the 36-month period that we enacted as a part of the relief request that we restricted it to a 36-month period. So that's why it's coming up again. February 2022 is fairly long ago. And of course, you can never predict a leak. So they didn't know they were going to have one in the next 36 months. But let me also add that with any statutes that are enacted under the U.S. Federal Code, I don't know of any of them that are retroactive that go backwards. You can't convict somebody of any crime that they committed before there was a law against it. So I think that in this case, we should stay with in that pro forma that we should allow this request to at least be vetted and not dismiss it out of hand because of the 36-month issue.
So on that point, that's great, but we have the question, when did the resolution pass? This was it December?
It was August of 2022. You changed it to a 36-month window. We updated it in December, but that wasn't part of that update.
Okay.
Okay, but so it went into effect August. So this is the problem. Went into effect in August. That means that this request did not come along until now. That's part of the policy. Unfortunately, that's the 36 months is already in place.
But the leak occurred in February, 6 months before that.
Occurred in February of this year. No, wait, is she asking for February?
22.
So February's was granted in February.
Yes,
This
right.
is a separate leak for the
This is a
same
different
year
one.
that occurred.
Yeah, it's a second one, but it's after the resolution passed for 36 months.
Correct.
So excuse me for a second. Amber, you have something to say. I'm sorry.
No. Janae, I agree with you. This request came in December. We passed it in August. There's been a policy change since the last one in February of 2022. It just seems like we can deny this one because it's against what our policy that we passed in August was. And we send a note saying our policy changed
In
and it
August.
changed in August.
Correct. Exactly. That was my concern, that it was, we did change the policy in August. This is a request that came in now.
Yeah.
So, and just because I was thinking, I just wanted to know if it was the same pipe or if it was a different pipe. That's the only thing I kind of wanted to know if it was important, but I don't think it is important for this, just it was just in.
I just want to make sure the committee had a chance to, discuss it based on Steve's question, if someone else wasn't going to raise this.
You guys, I mean, Amber makes sense I'm at the same place with Amber it is right now. So what do you guys think?
Let me make sure I understand. The second leak and the second, and as part of that, the second relief request both occurred after the change in policy.
So no, so the first request was done February 22nd. Okay,
Right.
that didn't have anything to do with what our new policy is.
Right, that's the first leak. And then we have the second leak
After August.
after the change in policy, and their request for that leak came in after the policy.
Correct.
So why wouldn't they be on notice of the policy change? Sorry about the noise. Why wouldn't they be on notice of the policy change at the time of the second leak and the second utility relief request? Why aren't they under the new policy? I'm not even seeing why this is an issue.
They are under the new policy.
Okay,
The customer, the client just wanted us to see it, to look at it again, just in case. That's the only thing.
Okay. And Steve, is that different than your position? It seems to me like when it occurred and when they submitted their second request, the policy was in effect. So why is that just not the end of the story? What am I missing there?
Well, I didn't think that we should go backwards to penalize people. So we have the 36-month policy, but that didn't start till August, well after their first leak.
Yeah, but
So-
Steve, this is a separate incident and we have a new policy as of August. This came in December. So I don't understand why we're spending so much time talking about it.
Well,
See,
and
when
exactly,
Steve was-
because this was the first leak under the 36-month policy, not the second leak under the 36-month policy.
and I can see Steve's,
You don't-
I can see Steve's logic. It was the first leak after the policy.
Yes.
Forget behind us was 6 months ago,
Okay.
and it was a different policy. It was the first leak under the new policy.
Okay. All right. I'm following that now.
So when you change a statute, you can't go backwards and penalize people
Correct.
for something that wasn't illegal or unlawful prior to the statute being changed.
Yes,
Yeah. You know what? I see that point.
I see it too.
So I agree with you. The only thing that we can actually do, look into it if it's the same leak.
Well,
I would like to know if it's the same leak. It was
From the same meter,
the same meter.
correct. As far as
Okay.
dissecting and finding out where the leak was and what pipe it was, it came from the same meter. It came from the same source.
Okay.
Right. But I would say technically, I would agree with Steve that it is the first leak after the new policy.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that should be
I'm on board with
granted.
that. I'm on board with that.
And that should be granted then, and then from here on, the 36 months, if she has another leak, it's not going to be
Right.
granted. But this one should be granted, in my opinion.
I concur with that.
And I think due to the fact that that's, to avoid, she will come back, I'm sure, but it does make sense that because it was the first leak after a policy was made,
Yes,
and we should grant this
Yep.
request.
I feel good.
but back to Janae's question, if I may, is that the same pipe, Trevor? Or
It's the same meter.
It's the same meter.
I understand it's the same meter, but was it the same feed line? It looked like it was an elbow from the description. Is that?
Yeah, I'm not sure on the private property side of things. All I know is we have the meter,
Sure.
services the park, where the leak happened. We're teetering on a line that we shouldn't be, discussing because we don't cross that line on the private property.
Sure.
All I know is it came from the same meter.
Is there any way for us to find out sure whether, or the break was on the same place or?
I think we're overstepping our bounds, honestly, because
All I can do is include the first relief request for you to review and examine whether it's similar. You don't want to grant it. I don't know that we can verify whether it was the same piece, for sure.
Sorry, yes. I just want to.
Excuse me,
Are you guys saying?
we're past public comment.
Sorry,
This is,
Question, just to understand the policy, is it that you have your first leak in this new policy is forgiven?
No,
No,
So that's what I'm not understanding.
no, it was before the new policy went into effect.
I just mean,
oh, yes.
how can this leak be forgiven? Can you help me understand?
So what you're asking, yes, so the first leak after the resolution was passed, okay. If it's appropriate, it will be approved or denied. So yes, because, that's where we are right now.
so to answer the committee's question about verifying if it was the same exact location, is we would have to go to the resident and ask, or if they had a plumber's report that would indicate that it was the same spot as the previous leak, would be as much as city staff could do, because of what Trevor said. We don't get onto private property. So the only way we would know is to ask the resident and or look at the plumber's report if it was indicated on there. Otherwise, it's exactly what Trevor says. If it's the same meter and it's a reoccurring leak, then this is what we want to try to prevent.
Well, this is Doug. Does it really matter? Because we don't really have anything in the ordinance or our policy, right? That we wouldn't approve a second one in the same site if they're still, as long as they meet all the other requirements of the policy, including the 36 months. I mean, I hope I don't want to make something up here.
No, I think
No.
we discussed it a little bit, and it was just my curiosity that was,
Yeah.
there, but no, you're right. So within 36 months, so after this, if it's approved, if she comes back to us, within 36 months, then it's automatically.
Correct. So
No.
it should be approved, but then again, 36 months from now, no.
I would say that for a business, it's quite different than a residential, in that a business could have ice machine leaking or toilet flapper or irrigation or whatever. Resident is pretty common. It's usually a flapper or, their pipes. So, but a business could have a myriad of causes of leaks and not necessarily be a chronic leak that they haven't addressed. So that would be something the committee'd have to look for when these leak requests come in. That may require further discussion in that regard.
And I thought that we discussed some restrictions on same line, something like that. And that's why I asked the question.
Yeah, and it's a good one, Steve. And that was around our effort towards conservation and getting people to address leaks that have been chronic. But I don't recall you guys writing the ordinance tight enough that it really spoke to that. But I know we talked about it in great length. It was one of the things behind the spirit of making the change.
Right.
Okay.
It seems to me like the 36-month restriction kind of self-fixes that. I mean, if you have a reoccurring leak, it kind of takes care of it, because you can't come back at time point A and then come back a month later or 6 months later on the same site, because you're coming back too soon. So I think it might be self-fixed.
Excellent point, Doug.
Yes.
It's self-correcting.
Because it comes from the same meter, like,
Yeah.
Trevor was saying, it comes from the same meter, so that leak, it's irrelevant. It's
Yep.
a leak and it's not approved. Okay, all right, have we had enough discussion? Amber?
Yeah.
Are you good?
Yeah, I'm fine. Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Good.
So my only comment would be, before we do a motion, is I just want to, I think we're doing a lot better. It looks like we're going to approve this one. So I guess that's just a one-liner going back to him saying it's approved. On the denials, I think we need to be careful as a committee to make sure we're on the same page, so that Tessa can come up with, the exact reasons for denials. It may not be important here. So I think approvals are just a one-liner, right, Tessa? Pretty much we met and we approved?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. All right, then. Thank you.
Okay, so do I have a motion?
You do approve.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any discussion? Any more discussion?
Good.
I just want to say thank you guys, because this was, it was something that, it was a little confusing, but obviously.
And it did look, when I
Thank
read
you
it,
for your questions.
right,
Steve.
yes, and when I read it in depth, I think it was put in good faith.
Yes,
She
exactly.
seemed like she really did honestly,
Right.
try to prevent it.
And then since you've approved this, I do want to clarify that I didn't end up calculating this out the way that we normally do for a credit. Would you like me to bring this back to you at the February meeting to approve that credit, or would you like me to just go through it?
I don't think it's necessary. Do you guys think it's necessary for?
Well, we did put in a limit of $1,000, I think, or some limit there. So if it's over that, then I think, just limit it to 1,000, I guess. And I think Karen or Trevor have override privileges on that.
Is it over or is it?
it's $1,000. I mean, I don't know for sure on this one whether it would be, but presumably we would just cap it at that
1,000.
top limit.
Yeah.
I don't think that it's that high,
I don't either. I don't recall it was that high.
So either,
but again, I haven't calculated it yet,
right.
so I want to be sure.
Good.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, do we have to amend that motion?
I don't think I do, if you want me to bring it back, or, I mean, just let me know.
Yeah,
I'll
I mean,
direct it if you would.
I don't think it's necessary unless you guys think it's necessary.
No,
I think you have a defined limit in your
Yeah.
ordinance, and that's what we would abide by.
I promise I
Okay.
won't.
Yeah,
All
I
right,
just say let Tessa take care of it and that's it.
fantastic. Okay, thank you.
good.
All right, well, that was nice and healthy. Good job.
Good.
Public works status.
Yep. What we're working on right now is with Cat Peterson and the architect to finalize our Midway and Siusla building add-ons for our new permanent generators that will go there. That's a project that the committee and council gave us approval for during budget last year. So we're trying to finalize those plans. And then on the water resiliency, we're working on our application for the engineering money that's been promised to us by Business Oregon. And we are working with a group through FEMA and BRIC. That's an acronym. Don't ask me what it stands for. That also has funding opportunity for the construction piece. That is the only part of the funding that we have not been awarded yet for that three-phase water resiliency. That is the actual construction of the new tank and the backbone along Highway 101. So we're hoping to get that nailed down this year. I think based on everything that we have on our plate, this would be the time frame I would be asking you guys to go through the master plan projects and let me know the ones that you feel you'd like to see us pursue money for. At this point, I think we have so many projects going and we've got funding nailed down for those. I think it's a matter of us being able to get those executed because we have a lot that are still in the engineering phase that we haven't been able to pull the construction phase. And honestly, my intent this year was not to ask for any funds for any new capital projects, just because our plates are so full right now. I wanted to get the committee's opinion of that. If there's something that you're passionate about that you want to see us pursue funding for, please bring it to my attention. These would be capital projects out of the master plan. The other project that we are working on that was approved for engineering is to loop the Haystack Heights water system. That's something that's in the master plan. The fire department has been wanting that for a number of years to not only improve the water pressure up there for fire protection, but we also need additional isolation valves. And we have a failure in the infrastructure. It doesn't impact the entire neighborhood. I had teed this up during the budget committee with council and budget to let them know that it would be good to get that engineered. And then we could tell them what we're looking at as far as finances. We have a rough estimate on what that would be. And so we're working on that as we speak. And that is simply just to finish the engineering design. It does not include any construction at all at this point. So knowing that that's looming, I was hesitant to add any more to our plate, honestly. We've got beyond a plate full this year, just because funding began to come in. We just didn't know what all we were going to get. And so it's really created quite a volume of work. So anything I'm forgetting? And then that's one aspect of our budget. Then our operating budget is just our normal, what we do to maintain what we've already got. That's the overlays on our streets. We didn't get any paving done last year because of the weather. So all that paving that's been approved in this year's budget will shift to the spring. And so Trevor and Paul will be working to get that scheduled. And again, those are existing asphalt streets that just need an overlay to keep them in good condition. We're not paving any gravel sections at all, haven't asked to, don't plan to. and then just our normal maintenance. Okay. Any projects that you guys have in mind or are interested in seeing us move forward on based on the master plan? And what's your feeling on the transportation plan? I've asked you guys to take a look at that. Is there anything in that you feel passionate about, as we don't know what's happened with that? They have a committee form for that, but I don't know if council is going to give us authority to move forward on that. You guys would obviously be involved in that, being Public Works.
Okay.
So I guess those are questions to the committee.
I think on that, I was just waiting for council to give us, say, okay, but if they have a committee already said, I think we need to wait for the committee to,
Yeah.
say what they want us to look.
Have you guys had a chance to look at it? And is there anything in there in particular that you would like to see? Because the next step will be to prioritize those projects so they can be vetted. And so I want us to be ready, because most likely that will be handed to us to take care of.
Right. Well, like I said, I'm assuming if there is a committee, they're probably going to ask us to prioritize. So for us to say now what we would like to see is probably not.
Yes.
Okay.
At least in my perspective, because I know what I want, but that committee want that. So
Yeah.
that's.
Now, I had one curiosity, just kind of where I live.
Yeah.
Remember, it's on Ash Street going down. I saw that McEwen has been down there excavating kind of a spot where it says, it dead end and everything. And I wanted to know what that's for.
There's a home that is going to be built down there.
Okay, it's a home.
The landowner owns 2 lots and
Okay.
they plan to develop one. And so there has to be some work done in preparation of that. Utility, power. We've been talking with the homeowner about water and sewer infrastructure. So that builder and the excavator will probably use some of our right of way to stage some of the materials, because that's such a constricted area.
It is.
Just like they did when they did the Ash Street water line replacement. We have quite a large right of way in that area that they'll use for staging. But that's what that activity is.
Okay, very good. Well, that clears.
And you can go online, remember, and see any plans that Jeff has in the wings. Once they've been in the approval process, you guys can go up and take a look at that.
Okay.
I-
Anything for good of the order?
Wait. I've had my hand up for a while. I have a question for Karen.
Sure.
Karen, I think that this falls under the capital projects section, but the expansion to the bathrooms, adding on extra public bathrooms. That's kind of
Yes.
Can I make a
Yeah.
request that I think has been coming through from a lot of people in the community, just given our age and time of our society, that we create a gender neutral bathroom?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
General.
What about the bathroom?
Rather than having another male and female bathroom, can we add a gender neutral bathroom?
Like a family bathroom?
No, like a gender neutral bathroom. That's what it's called.
Okay. Are you talking about the midway bathroom?
Yeah, I am.
Okay. And I'll go back.
I
and
just
look.
think that like as a concept in our town to embrace kind of the future and the present, that we should be sensitive to being all inclusive with our facilities, our public and city facilities, and a gender neutral bathroom would be in that direction and appropriate.
Yes, and the architect and we've gone back and forth from a 2-story to a single story, and we're back to the single story, which will go to DRB, I believe, this week. But there is a family bathroom where a man can take his child into the restroom if they're toddlers and they need to go, just like a woman can take her kids in. There's diaper changing stations there and whatnot. So that bathroom would be for whoever needed to use it. And beyond that, it would pretty much stay the way it is, because it's a remodel. It's not a rebuild. And so we wouldn't convert all the men's and women's bathroom to gender neutral at this stage. We have fixtures and things that are in place, so we wouldn't necessarily add the cost to change all that at this point. But there will be that family bathroom that's available for any gender that would need to go in and use that bathroom.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I think as long as it's just posted on the door that it is a gender neutral bathroom, I think
Of
that would do
course.
the trick. It's not
Yeah.
a family bathroom that I'm talking about, but I think that's what you're thinking is the same. I'm talking about lots of people who don't identify as male or female that come to our community that are perplexed and or excluded within our community because of these systems. And I feel like, we wouldn't be the first and only or beginning town or city to do this.
We will make sure the signage is such that they know that it's for anyone's use.
That'd be
Absolutely.
great.
Right.
Great,
Cheryl.
thanks, Amber.
I have a comment about the transportation plan.
Yes.
My priority would be safety and traffic control. And first thing is put some rumble dots at the crosswalks on Hemlock, and then the stop sign on Hemlock and Sunset there. But if I had to, priority say, and maybe Rick stands for redundancy infrastructure cache.
I love it. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate that. I'm not trying to push you guys to do something that hasn't been approved or is appropriate at this stage. What I'm inviting you to do is just be really familiar with that, because obviously we're going to be a big player in it. And I don't want to have them pull the trigger and us scrambling to go through. That's a very thick document. And so I wanted everybody to be familiar with it, intimately
Oh, yeah.
familiar, and have some sort of an idea of what you think, just like what Steve said, what you think the priorities should be, so that when that committee is brought back together, if it is, we're prepared to give really good input, and we're not trying to figure it out at the point they ask, like to plan ahead a little bit.
Yeah, I kind of enjoyed Doug's comment. Just go forward to page 86
Is it 67? I thought it was something.
or 67. Yeah, it was like forward to whatever, and then you get in the meat.
Exactly.
Thank you, Steve.
When that committee, if they start to reconvene, I wonder if you could send a heads up just for us so that we can attend or listen in if we'd like
Yeah.
to participate.
Most definitely. Yeah, I definitely will. And Jeff is aware of that obviously Public Works would have a lot to weigh in on that just because of what our responsibility is. And so how much of us is part of that committee? I don't know. It depends on what council decides to do with it. I just want us to be ready and aware so that we're helpful in the process.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And then at Hemlock, I personally witnessed a near crash with two Subarus where they came within 3 inches, and this one person pointed back and said, "What's going on?" And he pointed back, "It's a stop sign."
Yeah.
And he went, "Oh, gosh," like that. So, I mean, we still have people that are not aware of the new,
Yeah.
and it's right there with, and with the orange flags.
Yeah.
So,
Yes,
I would
we
agree.
took our flags down from the Warren Way Hemlock intersection, and we had to order more flags to get them up as part of the grant that was given to us. Those flags have to stay in place for a year, and that project was done in April, and so they have to be in place. They're looking a little ratty because they're a little different than the original flags that were up there. So I'll probably replace them with the proper flags, but it wouldn't be a bad idea to leave them even beyond April for exactly what you said, Scott. We're seeing, people that they're coming here for the first time after several years, and they don't realize there's been a change there. So the flags help bring that to people's attention.
oh, and one Subaru was very, very,
Yeah,
forgive me,
yeah. Okay. Go ahead, Janae.
Okay, now do we have anything for the good of the order?
I would just like to thank Trevor for an outstanding tour of wastewater on December, whatever it was, 13th. It was rainy, but I I absolutely gathered so much information.
It's a pretty complex operation.
Very complex, you know,
Pretty amazing.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
You have a storm happening like what we had, and you've got to worry about the plant plus 9 pump stations, and you got trees coming down everywhere.
and you know, and it's
Chaotic.
right to understand all of that and the way it was built and what it does, the
Yeah.
function, and also it kind of gives you the idea of a lot of moving parts.
It does.
A lot going on in there. So
Yeah.
thank you, Trevor.
And when it comes to high rain and flow levels and whatnot, you realize those 3 ponds out there that people call the lakes,
Yeah,
they have a crucial role.
certainly do.
Now, every time I walk by and I hear some kind of noise, I know exactly what is going on. And I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, and then I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could take care of everything except air. So I learned that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that team does a heck of a job taking
Yeah.
care of that plant,
Right.
everything in the community. So
pretty amazing.
Amazing.
glad you guys got a lot out of that.
Yes.
If there's anything else that you guys want a tour of to better understand, just let us know, because we're always open to educating so that when these projects happen, people understand why it's important that we do these. So,
I second Scott's comments, Trevor. It was very comprehensive. Thank you.
I have
Any-
one last question, if I might, just for
Yeah,
Karen,
go
that this is another question that came up in a conversation. How often, Karen, and this is just, and Trevor, you may have told me this, so I apologize if I have forgotten, but how often do we do a full flush of our system?
Like, what do you mean flush?
full
Like
flush.
flush the entire water system? Like where we let out the fire hydrants and, we flush the system?
Yeah,
So we check flow levels every year. The fire department is contracted. We have an IGA with them where they maintain and service all of our hydrants. They check the flow levels and that's documented. We're required to do that each year, but
Mhm.
I'm not sure what you mean by flushing our system.
Like, well, I'll tell you like what just happened. And I think Doug, you may have seen part of this, but like what just happened with the city of San Francisco, for example, is that they had a massive problem when all these rains happened because their system hadn't been flushed. So they had all this water backed up in their system that just hadn't been in use for whatever reason. And so what happened is that with all the pressure added from the excess water, both in their wastewater system, but also just from people, their system basically exploded and a lot of people got flooded, restaurants got flooded out, et cetera. And that's clean water, but also wastewater. And so they go through and they flush their entire system where they let the pressure out of all the hydrants, but they also go through and flush kind of all the backup in the pipes. And so I'm just wondering, because we've had a lot of water too, how often we do that. And it's kind of a resiliency. I mean, and I'm maybe using the wrong terminology. I just wanted it. And maybe you just answered it when you say that you're checking flow levels. I don't know the technical terminology.
okay, I can speak on this because I kind of know the system that you're talking about in San Francisco. So like Karen says, when we do our yearly our fire hydrant testing, that's a flush of the whole system entirely. It takes a few months for that to happen, but we're flowing a significant amount of water out of the fire hydrants for pressure testing and testing the accuracy of the hydrant itself. As far as California, I believe they're trying to capture as much rainwater as they possibly can for use at a later date. We don't have that problem here. Our
Of
springs are constantly moving, so we don't have stagnant water in our tanks. That's continuously moving
Right.
out to the tanks and to the community. And when we're getting our supply, restocked at the tanks, it's the springs are constantly flowing. Does that make sense? We're not holding water back.
Right.
Yeah, I understand that part. I fully understand that part. I think that you answered it with the fire hydrant.
And as far as flushing the sewer system, every year we have a certain section of town, the sewer pipes TV'd. And at that time, we take that opportunity to clean the sewer pipes before we camera them. So that's what I consider flushing the sewer system.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. That's helpful, Trevor. I appreciate it.
And a lot of California is on a combined sewer storm
Yeah.
system.
Very
We
good.
don't have that problem here.
Got it.
And Trevor, this is Doug. I think you're right about the California situation, even though it's just been a lot of flooding and a lot of damage. The one thing they're kind of not really bragging about, but they're grateful about, is for the first time in years and years and years,
Yeah.
many of the reservoirs that have not been full or been very low are now full to capacity. So it is kind of a big deal doing the capturing that you referred to.
Yeah, and that changes their pressure, the pressurized pipes, because with
Right.
those reservoirs being as low as they have been for so long, I'm sure they adjusted everything to those levels, and now that they've increased, they're of course going to have pressure differences all around the community.
Well, and where you have mudslides for the municipalities that have a combined storm and sewer system like we do not, that mud can get into that storm drain system and cause issues in itself. So when it comes to flushing the system, that would be where something in that arena would be more appropriate. Our storm and sewer are not combined. They're independent, and that's why roads handle storm and wastewater handles sewer. They're separate systems. They don't intermingle, don't intersect, if you will. So we're very fortunate in that sense that all of our storm, sewer, and water are completely separate systems.
Yes. And I think with Trevor, correct me if I'm wrong, but on the ponds, those are also controlled so
That's right.
that, they don't get over. So that's very good.
Right.
Yeah.
And the project several years ago where we redid those banks around those
Yeah.
ponds and stabilized that has made significant improvement for us there.
Yeah, that's very good.
Great questions, you guys. Anything else?
Good questions, Amber. Thank you.
Thank you for explaining, and pardon my lack of proper terminology, but I just wanted to understand because of, what's been going on, and we do handle it really well here.
It's a good
Yeah.
question, and you're right. I've had lots of people ask about the different cities that are experiencing tremendous impact because of the rains. And so when we talk about conservation and trying to save water, like Trevor says, that's one thing, knock on wood, that we have not had an issue. We have excellent amount of water. In fact, more, it's going back into the system because of it. And so we're fortunate, and where the other cities go from having nothing to an overabundance in one fell swoop is tremendous pressure on their system. So we're lucky, very lucky.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to report, thank you for everyone that showed up at the blood drive yesterday. We had 35 people donate.
Wow.
So that was great.
Good.
If we have another one March 14th. So if you haven't donated blood, no. That's all I have. All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Yes, let's adjourn.
Okay. I'm sure you guys are seconding now.
Thanks, you guys.
I'll second.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks.